What's happening, Soul Tribe? Antojai here. Whew. So why is discovering yourself so super important for like your alchemy and your ascension in general? Well, you need to spend some time like diving into yourself and exploring the higher versions of yourself by simply just asking yourself these really profound, deep questions about who you are, what you are, and why you're actually like getting there in general. One of the biggest things about like my journey through ascension has been perpetual discovery of myself. Like the more I understand myself, the more I understand what I'm capable of, the more in control I am because I'm aware of it, right? Like how can you know that you have a short temper that can go somewhere really negative really fast if you don't even sit down to contemplate the fact that you can be very angry at any given moment in your life, right? Like, so you have to sit down and contemplate on yourself, like, what are my positives, what are my negatives? A lot of times people are like, oh my God, my positives, let me do my self-discovery, let me just focus on all the good things about myself. But you don't actually sit down and try to like always contemplate on the negatives, right? And the reason why is because people consider the negative or like the things that we don't find so most flattering to be something that is evil or bad or works against us. But you really have to sit down and understand that like your nature is a similar style of nature as like the trees, the earth, space. Like there is a positive and a negative to everything. Like in nature, dirt can kill people, and it can also like nourish the earth, right? Like a landslide could kill a bunch of people, but at the same time it could nourish the earth and bring a bunch of food into the world, right? So when you sit down with yourself and you ask yourself, okay, what is my nature? What authentically is my nature? Without just being biased towards, I just want to focus on the good things that have happened to me or like the good things that I'm capable of, you actually end up unlocking more power to your alchemy, right? And that's one of the things that I've learned, like going through my self-discovery of like finding out who I am as an ascended being and like remembering all my lifetimes and like the things that I'm capable of, is that I have great goodness inside of me, but I still have this great darkness inside of me. And there's a lot of light workers that are going to go out there and tell you like, don't focus on the darkness, don't do this. If you're focusing on just the light, you're lying to yourself. Like you're not acknowledging every aspect of yourself, and you're causing more tension because you're saying that my shadow doesn't exist. Your shadow is always going to exist, all right? Your shadow just needs to be changed on the programming that allows it to do shitty things, right? So like if your shadow has this natural propensity to be angry and like, take everything offensively, your shadow can still be there, but you need to retrain your shadow not to get offended so quickly, right? Because sometimes your shadow has some really good comebacks when somebody wants to get real smart with you, or it knows how to think in a different fashion than your natural mind when you're in the middle of everything thinks, right? So you have to be able to say, okay, well, there's these negative or what seem to be negative aspects of myself that are just slightly glitched. I just have to correct them, right? Now, not everything inside of your subconscious or your shadow is going to be something that you can just tweak very easily, right? There's some of it's going to be this experience of you have to tweak it progressively, you have to completely change it. Some of them you just have to reason with and tweak. But ultimately, the more you discover yourself and the more you own who you are as a person, both positive and negative, you will be more powerful because you would know yourself, and then you can control yourself at the end of the day, right? Like you need to understand this aspect not only with reviewing other people and seeing other people. In my last video I said, you have to go ahead and you have to be able to catch yourself when someone triggers you. What about them lies really deep within me that makes me feel like, that kind of vibration, right? The only way you would know how to do that in the first place is if you start really stepping into this position of constantly discovering yourself, not judging yourself. We're grown in a society, and many societies, that tell us that we should only focus on these certain aspects about ourselves and deny everything else. Whether it's, you're really good at art, but you can't turn it into a career, right? You should just do it as a hobby. Or, you're a really good talker, but sometimes you talk too much, right? It's all about knowing where your scale is, because your scale is never like just positive and just negative. Your scale is always going back and forth. And you'll notice that the same attribute, like, you have the ability to be very loving, right? And like, this is my personal like truth right here. I know that I have the ability to be very, very loving, and I can give out a lot of great energy to people, especially if I feel like this deep connection with you. But at the same time, I can turn that off like nobody's business. Like, if I really feel like your energy is toxic, if I feel that you're up to some shady shit behind the curtains, if I just get a prompt from my guides that there's something about you that I should be highly cautious of, I can easily shut my emotions off. Not because I'm saying, oh, I'm going to protect myself, I'm going to shut down. It's more so I'm going to disconnect from you, because everything's an energy exchange, right? I consciously recognize that in my mind. So if everything's a conscious energy exchange, the moment I choose to disconnect my attachment to you is the moment that I can see things more clearly. Is the moment that I can take a step back and actually analyze what's going on, and not letting the rose-colored glasses of my kindness become my weakness, right? I can only know that my love can be turned into my weakness if I am conscious of the fact that, like, I need to consciously be monitoring myself from day to day, right? I can't know about my weakness if I don't even recognize like what darkness is capable inside of me after analyzing what goodness is inside of me, right? So like, I usually sit down and I focus on these things like, okay, if I can love you unconditionally, like open from source, great. Like, but at the same time, if I have to protect myself, I'm going to cut that energy off, because that's who I am. My weakness is loving people to a fault, where I stop seeing reality for what it is, because I'm starting to give you the benefit of the doubt when I have to constantly be looking at the facts, right? So you need to be sitting there and be able to recognize that. Now, that weakness inside of me is not a weakness if I'm conscious of it, right? If I was never conscious of the fact that that was my weakness in the first place, then that would be my shadow, and that would be what causes me disruptions in my reality, which doesn't let me allow to access the higher aspects of my alchemy that lie deep within, because there's not just alchemy outside of us, there's alchemy inside of us. The only way you discover that alchemy inside of you is by constantly reviewing yourself and recognizing what aspects of yourself are there. This is another great reason why you should be constantly discovering yourself, because the fact that I know that I have a great heart and I can love people unconditionally, the fact that I know that that can also be turned against me, that I'm aware that could be one of my weaknesses within polarity. When I start seeing someone trying to cater to that particular aspect of myself, red flag goes off automatically, and I instantly will hear something from the cosmos or inside of myself say, this person is being inauthentic, this person should be watched out for. And in that moment, because I know myself, and then I can kind of just hear the person trying to like really cater to that version of me, I know that there's an illusion in front of me, right? I may not always be conscious of the illusion of like what the person's intent is, or like, why I'm letting this happen to myself, right? Because I'm the creator of my own reality. So this happened to me because I rather summon this person who, out of like something inside of me that was lacking, that then generated this manifestation of a person to come in and then try to exploit this weakness inside of me. Rather, it was me trying to say, I want to really make sure that I've conquered this weakness inside of me, or I wanted something and my manifestation wasn't as pure. You really need to understand that your manifestations are always just going to be a reflection of you, and your manifestations can become easier when you know yourself. Because when you know yourself and you manifest it incorrectly, like, it just becomes apparent. It's a constant. Like you'll just be really aware of it in that moment when it happens, right? And a lot of people don't really think about that. Like your self-discovery is what's going to unlock more manifestation. Your self-discovery is what's going to give you more alchemy, because when you understand yourself, there's nothing that can really work against you. And it's okay to know that, like, my weakness is also one of my greatest strengths. Like one of my weakness may be that sometimes I love people too much and like I choose to turn a blind eye, but as long as I keep that like in the middle and I'm aware of the weakness and I'm aware of that same strength, I can give it to who actually needs it and who deserves it, right? And that unlocks more beauty in my reality. So this is something that I really want you to focus on, is just like every day discover yourself, like be real with yourself, ask yourself a question. You know, if someone triggers you, what about them triggered you? And does that exist inside of you? You know, is your weakness really a weakness, or is your weakness really just part of your nature? Through studying myself through esoterica, I've noticed that my weakness of loving people too much has been documented through like hundreds of thousands of years, literally. And when I finally read it over and over and over again in Egyptian texts, and even in Atlantean like storylines, I was just like, man, I've always been this person that like, I'm really kind, and sometimes that really bites me in the ass, right? Like that, my kindness is one of my greatest attributes, but you know, it could lead you to being naive and gullible. So I've learned how to master being gullible and being naive, and being able to say like, I'm not gonna let the fact that I don't want to look at me being gullible, because nobody wants to say, oh yeah, I am gullible or I am naive, right? But like the fact that I'm willing to look at that, no matter how annoying it might be to me, gives me the opportunity to be better. It gives me the opportunity to be more in control. I'm more of a creator in my reality. Therefore, I can create exactly what I'm looking for by knowing myself. A lot of times people try to create something in their reality without knowing themselves, and they might get the manifestation that they generated, but then that manifestation doesn't make them happy because they didn't know themselves in the first place to generate that manifestation. That's why it didn't line up the way they wanted it to. So this is today's mini lesson. I'm sending you all my love. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share with as many people that need to hear this message. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, check out the description in my link below. Go ahead. Also, if you're on Instagram, check out the link in my bio, or DM me saying clarity call, and we'll schedule a free clarity consultation to see if you're a good fit for accelerating your ascension with me. All right. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Sending you all my love.